gentlemen. It's my immense pleasure to welcome two of our esteemed guests in this first session, formal session of our fifth National Sustainable Smart Cities Conclave. The session is titled Investing in Culture and Creativity for Sustainable Urban Development. We have with us Padma Bhushan Shri Rajiv Sethi, who is a well-known name in the field of art, in the field of creativity across the globe, and who is fortunately and our advisor to Srinagar, cultural advisor to Srinagar Smart City as well. We welcome you, sir, to the conclave. We also have with us Shri Salim Beg Saab, who is the convener of J&K INTAC J&K chapter. Shri Salim Beg Saab has had a wide experience both in terms of heritage conservation, in terms of documentation, in terms of promotion of art and craft. He is also well-known in the segment, in the sector of arts and crafts as well as heritage in India is concerned. So we're really fortunate to have been joined with two of our esteemed guests this morning. In order to set a little context too about this conclave, in this National Fifth Smart Cities Conclave, which is being hosted by Srinagar Smart City along with Gaon Connect. In today's conclave, we are having speakers from more than 30 cities from across the country, which includes both the senior officials from working with different state governments as well as Government of India, besides the CEOs and commissioners of different cities, as well as, and then many leaders from the private sector, including those who are working in the segment of architecture, who are working in the segment of information technology, and those who are working in the other fields. This particular session is of immense importance and value to us because recently Srinagar city was also included in the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. This is one of the achievements that the Srinagar city and has been cherishing and celebrating. So this panel this discussion with an esteemed panel and esteemed guests as Shri Rajiv Sethi Saab and Salim Beg Saab, we feel really fortunate that this is going to shed light on where we are and also chart out a plan and a journey ahead for the city. So I would request, first of all, our honorable guest Rajiv Sethi Saab to open up with his opening remarks regarding the session, sir.
Well, I think a fireside chat would have been a lot smarter than a digital intervention. But
yes,
given what we have, I'm delighted to be with you, Athar, and with my dear friend Salim. I think in the true nature of a conversation, I should not go on and on and on. Salim, please intervene and let's truly make this a more
this will be a conversation as always. We have been conversing for decades.
Start by saying that the Srinagar's nomination as a creative city in the absence of any coherence of the UNESCO's and UN-led creative city indices. I'm talking that in the country. We still haven't understood what creative city indices are. And of course, Srinagar more than deserves its place for arts and culture. But there's a lot more. As you know, the creative city indices have things like cinemas and film clubs and libraries and neighborhood museums and cultural centers and theaters and recording studios and restaurants and what have you. Things that I know Srinagar has had at one point. For many reasons, things began to shrink and will certainly come back to a glory which it never knew before. My concern is, let's come back with a way that even UNESCO doesn't expect. I think what you did, for example, with cinema, to reinvent a whole public cinema hall with people on a shikara or seeing on a dull is something that no one could imagine. So I think our creative indices have to be so completely different. The concept of theater, the mobile Mahalla Rangmanch, our concept of neighborhoods or of public art in the public domain, of street art, of converting the urban sprawl that is spreading in Srinagar, making it unrecognizable. I mean, I've never seen that. There are no hinterlands, there are no villages left, and it's like in Kerala, you go from one road and it just never ends. Your eye never rests on the countryside all around. Now, I do believe that any smart city needs smarter villages. So I think the village, or whatever remains in the so-called hinterland or neighborhood of the city-centric Kashmir, has to first become a lot smarter on how to conserve and preserve its ecology, and by ecology I mean social, cultural, and its political and its economical. So, and I think it all adds up, because in a knowledge economy, if you're original, if you're doing something that only you can do and no one else can even match up, that is where content is. That is where money is. So knowledge economies demand that you come up with innovation. You come up with ways that doesn't shrink the imagination, that you do things that nobody has thought of. So what we are, I think, and I'm so encouraged by Athar's presence and his putting together this galaxy of people, many of whom I know. I don't know if Keshwji is listening to this panel and how the technology is programmed, but in matters of technology, Dilli Durast, and I took me time to get hooked on to all the rest. And also to say that, in the larger panels where we're talking about various issues, which are from security to issues of digital access, I do think that culture and heritage, of course, needs more time. And I'm happy that we're here for the moment. But hum bhi pade hain raahon mein, and these pathways are critical to everything else. Unless we take a cultural perspective, it may be and a heritage-based perspective, everything else will not follow as easily. But again, I have this problem of just going on. Salim, let's reflect and make this
first joining you in complimenting Mr. Athar Amir Khan Saab for creating a platform like this, and perhaps the first, I wouldn't say one of the first, really the first kind of a conversation which should have taken place much earlier. But this municipal corporation has taken a big leap, as was mentioned by Khan Saab, about getting Srinagar applying for nomination of Srinagar City on Creative Cities Network. Raju, Srinagar City would be happy to know has been nominated in the category of crafts and folk art.
And folk art.
Yeah, and folk art. So that is what it has been. Anyway, I would like to go slightly. But we have a lot of.
Sorry, just 1 second to mention. In the craft field, we must go beyond to many more crafts we know very little about, from Pidlakari to Khatamban to Dalgate Pottery. That's all gone below, to many other things that you are well aware of.
Yeah, I just wanted to go slightly back in time about the city as such. After all, what Smart City wants to do is to create an environment which has sustainability as the main goal. We used to have a very friendly city in Srinagar. I'll tell you, it was a very livable city. And then, as you know, in my childhood, or even advanced childhood, city was breathing creativity, not only in crafts. We always talk about crafts, but other areas, paintings, architects talking, artists talking, poetries.
Absolutely.
All major government departments organizing mushairas like that. So it was a very art-friendly city.
It was a hub.
Yeah, hub. Something has happened down the line. We have lost it. And then, as has been mentioned, creativity and sustainability are very closely linked. Like, we know these development goals of UN 3030, and they're 2030, they're just cultural practices, and sustainable dimensions have to be placed prominently in all the schemes. In fact, they have to be the cross-cutting theme of all the programs the STs are taking up. But I'll confine myself. I mean, how do you do a creative activity where you hardly have any cultural infrastructure? Activities are there. They will always remain there. They have been there without us and perhaps in spite of us. The crafts have been there at an informal level. Other activities have been. This state really lacks cultural infrastructure. Not only cultural, we know now you can't run away from school system. And at least for the first 5-6 years, most of our children go to schools. Schools of our time and schools of today are vastly different in terms of creativity, in terms of art education. I'll tell you a small instance of what is the demand pool. We used to do a program with Tata's consultancy, Tata Trust, for about 4 years on art integrated learning. So these programs were in 100 schools. I don't want to talk about the program, talk about a specific instance. We used to take art workshops with children. So with government schools. I got a call once from a principal of a government school. She wanted that the program which was fixed for her school should be postponed by 2 days. When I asked for the reason, she said that our director is coming for inspection. We want good attendance in the school. Children only come when they hear there's an art workshop in the school. You kindly do it on that day so that more children come. That is the demand pool. But what are we offering? We don't have art teachers in the school. There's hardly any creative activity in the school. One major area which I wanted to flag here is the loss of cultural spaces in Srinagar city. Footpaths have been talked about, and I'm sure there's a session also on footpaths. We had chokes throughout the city. They're not existing. A wonderful replacement was given in terms of community centers in whole of the city. They have been converted into marriage halls, which could be a very great cultural space. So I'm more worried about lack of infrastructure, both in school system and normal academics, as also in the broader social setup. So I would like that to be streamlined and that to be thought of in a creative manner before we expect creativity to take the front foot.
Absolutely. If people, places, incidents, and civic ideals don't intersect, culture suffers. And they have to intersect with each other.
Just for the both the esteemed panelists, we also have us who are from all the 100 cities across the country. So maybe the next portion of this discussion, we move a little beyond Srinagar and maybe a little bit of discussion. How do cities actually invest in creativity as a way of sustainable development? I think one of the interesting things which I personally found attractive about the UNESCO Creative Cities Network was it was not recognizing any art, it was not recognizing any craft. Its only aim is that creativity, how do we make creativity as part of sustainable development, at the heart of sustainable development. So I would request both Rajiv sir and Salim to have a little discussion on how do now cities move on creating, when we are talking about sustainable development, there's a lot more element of employability, lot more element of, say, economics also involved. How do we also as a source of employment to people, also as a source of that economic activity in the city? So how do we do that? How that's maybe if we can have a discussion on that.
Yeah, I would revert back to what Creative Cities Network itself says. It says, I mean, this is one of the statements made in the Creative Cities Network, is that cities need to bring creative people together, foster a sense of community preserve, urban identity and heritage. So that is what is very essential if we really want to do or reach where you would like.
May I suggest that I think a very critical issue Salim has already raised, and on pedagogy, unless there is a groundswell of pehchan, of knowledge of what culture, heritage entails, there will be no future. So pedagogy certainly, but I think certain recurring events, if you want to call them, but programming which takes a kind of an annual stock taking or a biannual. We had been thinking about Silk Route Srinagar, which connects us to the larger whole of trade, commerce, and culture. I think it's important that we pick up a program like a Biennale that recurs every 2 years in a way that it comes into public consciousness, and not just public consciousness in Srinagar, which is vital, and in the state equally so, not just in the neighborhood of India, but linking us to the whole world. Specifically, what Silk Route did was open up doors. Kashmir became the crucible. It was where you linked up with the rest of Central Asia, with Europe. So I think it is important that we create some real imaginative interventions that are recurring, that keep come back, that people look forward to. And unless we flesh this in a way, we will not be able to create a space in the public memory. Along with this, I think certain infrastructures which would again excite imagination. I think what we're trying to do with river transport, to see how the riverfront itself can become a vehicle, like a artery that reinvents not just transportation, even livelihoods, but opens up an urban renewal option that has not been attempted. Srinagar is so based on water, and it's a discovery each time I go there. Even 2 months ago, I saw something I'd not seen in 50 years. On the Dal, very tentatively, bridges have been created with planks of wood going into the interiors of the backwaters. It is an amazing experience where, the basic needs of connectivity have been ingeniously, in an indigenous manner, answered. I think the government and the official bodies have to become aware of how common sense and how local needs are met with something that can excite the world's imagination. I think one needs to take cognizance of how innovative the traditional knowledge systems are in that state. And I think the sooner we do that, the more we will open up the avenue for new livelihoods. I think it's not just about what we know about paper mache or walnut carving, but there are hundreds of skills in Kashmir. There are so many of the intangible skills also that we do not know about. I'm not even going into performing arts, but so much has disappeared. As Salim rightly mentioned, that the occasion to meet, to be transdisciplinary, to be able to not just each person to their own, but artists, myths, writers, and poets, and people working in social work, that ground has to come. So you have to create the very inventive means to do that, Ratha. And we all look up to you because you come with a whole new energy, with a whole new agenda, which I think can make many of these ideas and dreams that we've had over many decades take some practical shape, that they can be shared.
Yeah, I'm happy the first step has been taken by Srinagar Municipal Corporation.
But Athar, make this into a platform.
They've taken a lead.
Not just one-off.
Yeah,
Don't
so this has to be structured. This has to be structured. And as I said, we know about intangibles, but tangibles equally are very important. And I think the municipal corporation is very well placed to do that. And I only hope, and we have really exceeded the time allotted, I really hope we can take it forward together as a program, as a passion project for everybody, including municipal.
Don't give us 10 minutes again. Give us a whole day.
You've already given you 10, Raju. It was slated for 10
minutes. I think it would be a pleasure listening to both of you even for days together. 10 minutes are very small. We are as towards the conclusion of this set of our esteemed panelists to share their concluding remarks. We'll start with Salim Bey.
As I said, creativity lies in people, and we have to work with people, and people also include children, young people, people who are senior to them. This city has been breathing, as I said, creativity. All that we have to do is to put it all together, formalize it, create a platform, create sessions like this, and I'm sure we will substantially reach where we want to, not only as a creative city, as a human habitation, as an urban space. I have no doubt about it. I've worked so long, I have no doubt about it.
Say,
Now over
Bukito,
to
our intangible aspirations into tangible programming. And that's over to you, Arthur. We are there to help to make all these
Sure.
ideas take some form that can be shared by the people of Kashmir and through them by the world at large.
Thank you so much. These were the I would again these were the some of the pearls and some of the important insights and some of the important guidances that we have got. I'm really grateful to both of our esteemed panelists for joining us in this session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And to
So,
all of you, now we'll be having the next session that is on effective governance and government service delivery through digital transformation. And that session will start shortly. And meanwhile, I'll thank everyone again for joining us in this session. Thank you so
sure,
much.
sir. Meanwhile, I would like my backend team to provide a small token of appreciation to Padma Bhushan Sri Rajiv Sethi ji. Sir, thank you. We'll be emailing it to you, the speaker participation certificate.
But we don't
And
have
next,
to add Padma Bhushan everywhere. It's longer than my name.
Yeah.
It's much easier just to say Rajiv Sethi.
it's respect, sir.
All we करना है मोहब्बत के साथ.
And next to Mr. Salim Beg Saab. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And as rightly said, I think so, this session was actually very short with the kind of interesting discussion happening. Next time, we'll ensure we give you a good amount of time so that because everyone was listening it so interestingly. So thank you, sir. Thank you. And we'll ensure you to give much better time in the next conclave, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.